Number one, in my pathetic attempt to have a rational conversation with a teenager, they asked me to give an example. So when I gave an example of the point I was trying to make, they said, "Why do you have to bring up my past?" Two, if the Bible says that I shouldn't eat shellfish or it's okay for me to throw rocks at other people for breaking the Sabbath, why am I even looking at other scriptures like they even matter? It's just picking and choosing. Three, I've always been annoyed when people come up to me and say that they missed me at blank. Shut up, that's not even true. What they're really trying to do is pull a guilt trip on you that you didn't have to do something that they had to suffer through. Four, I've always been annoyed by people telling me I lack faith. When faith basically means something that you want to believe that you don't have evidence for. So why don't they just come up to me and just say, I lack evidence? I know that. Five, there's a new movie coming out called Noah, and I recently heard a comedian that made a great point. He said, how did they load 3 million animals that were apparently indigenous to the area within a 5-mile radius? I'd also like to add, how did they cater to their diets when most of their diets were upon feeding upon each other and keep them from fighting and shoveling all that poo? Don't believe it. And six, speaking of poo, when we carry baggies, when we take our dogs out for a walk, we're supposed to clean it up. But I've been running on trails and I see horse crap that is huge. And why aren't they bringing a hefty bag to clean up that stuff? I don't know. There should be a law. Seven, if you want to make a lot of money in this world, you have to focus on one thing, and that is addiction. You look at all the money that's made around nicotine, alcohol, gambling, video games. We could go on and on and on about addictions, and people seem to be pretty judgmental of these people and their addictions. But I think that there's a lot of hypocrisy because I think the number one addictions is unhealthy food addictions. Eight, I always hear that around these unhealthy foods that everybody has free choice. I want to argue that a little bit in the sense that when you look at, let's say, a bunch of cattle in a pasture, and let's say 90% of the grass is unhealthy grass, but it tastes really good, and 10% of the grass is very healthy grass, but it doesn't taste as good, where are the cows going to gravitate to? You know, I'm not going to expect this some sort of intellect out of the cow. I think humans are pretty much the same way. I mean, I look at a kid eating a candy bar and I'm thinking, I wonder if they know really what refined sugar does to the body and how it's processed with insulin and how the addiction goes on in the body. I don't think so. Humans really aren't that smart. Nine, I've always been perplexed by parenting. What works for one child doesn't necessarily work for another. But I do know that this works usually every time when two kids come up to you and want to talk about some sort of conflict. You don't say anything and you make this face. My kids will probably need therapy when they get older. 10, just like Donnie and Marie were a little bit country and a little bit rock and roll, I'm just a little bit capitalism and a little bit socialism. But I can tell you one thing. There is one quote that I do like about Ayn Rand, and that is, you can avoid reality, but you can't avoid the consequences of avoiding reality. Peace.